Hello! Finally found the right button. Welcome to another one of these yearly recaps. It feels like it's only been a couple of months since the last one, and that's because I was running so late last year. I'm much happier to be on time this year. For anybody who hasn't seen one of these before, I play a little bit of each of the games that I worked on this past year and talk about some of the changes and development that happened in that time. I won't be touching on contract work. I won't be touching on other people's games that I helped out with. So yeah, just this year we'll be taking a look at Fossil Sweeper, Hive Time, Bad Egg, and Flat. And I realize now that I have closed the notes that I had open that were going to remind me of the stuff that I needed to talk about. This is how prepared I am. Excuse me. All right. So, I thought I was all prepped and ready. I was feeling very relaxed, and now I get here and I'm like, nope, no idea what I'm doing. All right, let me grab some OBS here. Really? Okay. Alright, so first up is Fossil Sweeper, which has been sort of my main thing for the past year or so. Past couple of years now. 2022 was sort of my second year of development, and in the last progress update video I did a comparatively lengthy, I mean it's only, I think it's only 10 minutes long, but it's longer than most of those videos, where I sort of tried to recap the past year's worth of development in a little bit of detail. But yeah, I want to also touch on stuff here. It's been difficult to reflect on, partly because the 2022 recap was so late. I didn't get to that until the end of 2023, which meant that at the time that I would normally be reflecting on everything that had happened, I'm running back through and looking at the year before. So it's all a bit of a muddle in my mind, but I've made some notes, so I'm in a slightly better position. The biggest, most immediately obvious thing to talk about is that the project's name has changed. So initially, when I did the prototype last in 2021, I called it Bone Sweeper, which was, serviceable. I like it. It's a really cool name. It has the benefits of being the same number of syllables as Minesweeper, and that makes it a bit easier to sort of, I guess, resonate in people's minds, I suppose. But it does have some shortcomings, right? Like, it doesn't communicate the paleontology focus of the game. Like, bones aren't just fossils, and fossils aren't just bones either. But I think for me it was always a working title when I came to this larger version of the game. But there was sort of one kicker that meant that Bone Sweeper was sort of off the table so far as final names went, and that's that somebody else was using it for a Minesweeper style game. And I think it's a better fit for their project. Theirs is a sort of like spooky Minesweeper clone where you're like digging up graves or something and you put tombstones and if you dig the wrong thing there's a skull, I guess. It seems like a much better fit there. So I put out a poll. I asked people for their opinions, and I got a lot of people were very attached to Bone Sweeper, which I can relate to, right? Like, if something gets familiar, and it's very easy to feel like that's the identity that the thing has in your mind. It becomes like something that you have a connection to, and to some extent like a sense of ownership of your relationship to that identity, I guess. It wasn't really surprising that people were attached to it, and there were some people who were like a little bit unhappy with the idea of a change. From day one, I was like, this is a working title. But you know, people managing expectations is tough, and I know that there are a couple people who were disappointed that I moved away. I hope that after some time to adjust, they feel a little bit better. I feel a lot better about it. I think Fossil Sweeper is still carrying forward some of the qualities that Bone Sweeper had. It's more explicit, it's slightly more clunky in terms of being an extra syllable and a little bit longer. It has a lot of S's in it, which are not great for audio recording, but you know, it's fine. I'm feeling very happy with it after a year or so to reflect. The other thing that's immediately obvious, and I might turn up the music a little bit for this one, is that as Peter and I were talking in last year's recap, unfortunately Peter was unable to make it today, so I'll do my best to share anecdotes that he's given me along the way. But yeah, we were talking about how this music that we're listening to at the moment is quite high energy, right? Like it's we had some Indiana Jones type inspirations. We wanted to have something that carried a sense of impending adventure. And I think this really does it, right? Like it sounds cool. I'm looking forward to having time to come back and redo this. You know, this is obviously a placeholder, temporary menu. I painted this in like 20 minutes or something, so that I had something here instead of a blank screen. I really like the idea of having like the world map stuff visible here to an extent, and also have screenshots of different aspects of the game kind of sliding across as though they're photos or something. Would be kind of fun. I think it'd be cool. But then when you go into the game itself, we'll make a new character. Why not? Our new character is going to be called Tommy, I guess. And they're going to use this flag. And their flag color is going to be orange. Why not? When we go into the map phase... Now. I don't know how obvious it is because the tutorial screen there ducked the music briefly, but we've got a lower energy version of the track here. It has a little bit less instrumentation, pushes the melodic percussion up into the forefront. And yeah, it's just like, it's rad. I dig it. We were kind of concerned that it just like it felt too big, right? Especially going into the dig phase, it was just a little bit too much. Because the dig phase music is all like quiet and thinky, and this is like a nice step down, so that when we step down further, it doesn't feel too jarring. And also, when we come back up and we're doing like assembly stuff or going into the museum or whatever and come back, like it still has some of this like excitement to it, some adventure to it, I think. And I'm pretty happy with how that came out. I think Preeta's pretty happy with how that came out. Yeah, and so like speaking of dig sites, and I was gonna get again, not quite as on the ball as I wanted to be, but we'll get there. Here it comes. There we go. That's what I wanted. And I'm going to bring this up over here. As a thing that we can look at. Hopefully that we can look at. Let's turn it on, see what it looks like. Nope. Let's bring it in front of the game. There we go, okay. So here's something else that I've been giving attention to, or was able to give attention to, excuse me, in 2023, was like starting to think about what identity did I want the dig sites to have visually, and how would I go about conveying different senses of place. And these thumbnail sketches were one of the first things that I did to start to try and explore that. And I have a couple. So the idea is that I don't remember any of the shortcuts for this. There we go, that'll get us in. Cool. So this is meant to be like a Australian red desert with some stones and bits of grasses and twigs and stuff poking out of the ground. Very classic Australian environment. I want to have some kind of savanna type thing going on here. Scale is not my strong point for these little thumbnails. These are meant to be like proper sized trees. These are meant to be like little bare shrubs kind of thing. And I have some kind of like Mediterranean scrubland, could be kind of fun. And sandy desert. And yeah, a rocky beach. I really haven't got like the beach represented in game properly yet. Something that evokes like Death Valley from North America. I like how this little painting came out. I feel like it carries the kind of sense of place that it's meant to have. Some kind of rainforesty type environment. One thing that I don't think I'm really going to touch on in gameplay, but I would like to touch on in the museum displays, is the potential environmental impact of paleontological digs, and like how is that managed, and how is the local ecology looked after as part of this process? Because I think that's an interesting thing, and it's an important thing to not gloss over too much. The last one I did was a snowy mountain thing here, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with these sketches as a as examples of what the different environments might look like, and also in terms of being able to identify what kind of characteristics I want the ground stratification to have. Yeah, I like how that's come out. If we actually go back into the game itself and have a look at some of these, we'll see that most of these are sort of manifested in the game in some way or another. Yeah, here's that desert one. Excuse me. Which has... No, this isn't the desert one. This is the beach one, I think. Which I haven't done anything with. But yeah, let's do some digging. As I was saying last year, I really like that just like the general tone and feel of the game is fun. I like that when you make a mistake, it's not a game over. I like how the avatar is walking around the space and doing stuff. Just like, in general, all the aspects that make the game what it is and differentiate it from other games in a similar space are things that I find myself appreciating while playing it, while testing it, and I think that's like usually a good sign that that the game is in a good place and is doing something interesting, is doing something well, maybe. I guess ultimately I'm not the judge of how well it does in the long run, but for now at least, at this stage in development, I feel like it's doing well. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm very mindful that I still have quite a ways to go. But anyway, we're going to go and try and find one of the slightly more interesting environments. Let's go into this one. I think this is the rainforest one. This one looks the best. And again, these are not final things. These are sort of like temporary, exploratory, poking around with how what do I need in order to start to convey these sorts of things. And so this has just got one fern, one tree, repeated over and over again. And like, yeah, this is kind of fun. Like, throw some background in there and some proper lighting and stuff, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And I've also got it set up so that it will fade out the environment that you're clipping through once the camera gets close. Ooh. No. I got a hard one here, where I have no idea where anything is. There we go. Alright, find fossil. That didn't really help. 1, 2, 3. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one of those three, or two of those three are, but not all of them. Okay. There we go. Finally. Finally we got something we can work with. So that's already touching 3, so that's good. That's only touching 3. There we go. Nice. Nice. And then we got a couple left here. There we go. Hooray! Yeah, so I did all these backgrounds. They were fun to do, and I think they all sort of do a decent job of feeling different. And once we were able to plug the music into it as well, wow, this one is tiny. This is that kind of red desert, but like everything's it's not sparse enough. Doesn't feel right. But I like the colors on the stratification here. It's cool. And the sediment layers. We also have, I don't know how audible it is on stream, but we also have the let me turn that down just a touch. We also have the I'm gonna remember my words someday. There's a footstep sounds, that's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, footstep sounds from the avatar walking around, which is cool. That's stuff that Jasmine recorded in 2021, and I was just slow with implementing it. I think we've decided that we're going to try and remove the baked-in reverb and use in-game stuff to handle that. Let's see if we can find... I was looking for one particular biome. Is that this one? No. There's also a bug where the footsteps play like super loud every now and again. Anyway, this was not the one we wanted to see. Let's go back to the main menu because I can run it from the practice screen. Yeah, Savannah. Music for this one is new. Yep, for not paying attention. Another thing I added in the dig phase here is another special ability called Find Highest, and I don't think this will be in the final game, but it's like getting closer to the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. Like you run this and it just reveals everything that's got the highest number of adjacent things left on the board, and I really like that it doesn't solve things for you, right? Like it's all still uncertain. But it does like dramatically change how you approach things compared to you not having that information, and that's the sort of impact that I want this stuff to have, which has been cool to do. The other thing that I've done in the dig phase here is these miscellaneous fossils now have a chance to be empty, and what's in them is decided during the dig phase. So at the moment that you smash it, that's when a thing is sort of removed from the game. Previously they were just randomly assigned in the assembly phase after you sort them, but I think here being able to like assign it at this point is a little bit more interesting, in terms of guaranteeing that the right types of fossils are found in the right formations. So if I've got a formation that's not meant to be, I don't know, what's a good example? I don't know, a formation that's got like some like animal skeletons, but is a place that would never have had sap producing trees, and so it doesn't make sense to have any amber there, for example. That's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to think about. But yeah, that's about it for the dig phase. If I go back to the assembly phase, we'll see that there's another piece of music that's changed here. So this is the normal, you know, action mode assembly music. But if I, whoops, not audio, gameplay. If I turn on puzzle mode, we'll get like a quieter version that feels a little bit more relaxed. So it's still the same piece of music, it's just a lot slower. And yeah, I think it feels nicer, it feels more appropriate. I like what it's doing for the game, you know. For anybody who's playing in this mode, it just feels more appropriate. It's this foot. Head to go over here, and we got one of these and one of them. And so yeah, at this point, I also give a summary of like if you've sorted misc fossils, it tells you which ones you've got. That's pretty cool. If we go to here somewhere, this one, I think, yeah. I remember what the controls are. So I want to do something that visualized. Oh my goodness, what's happened, game? Please. I don't remember making it full screen. Oh no, this I think this gameplay loop example? Yeah, okay, right, I can't show that on stream in this build, which... Oh no, I can. Right, here we go. Sweet. So the idea is that you go and you do digs, right? And that gets you fossils. And then you take your fossils and you go into the assembly phase, and you start to build your skeleton. You go and get more fossils, and you build more skeletons, you get more fossils, and you build more skeletons, and eventually you get all the bits that you need. And you can build a whole skeleton, and it goes in your museum. Wonderful. That's the wrong button. Ah, right. Yeah, that's why it's... If I toggle full screen, do we? No. But yeah, the idea was meant to be that if you then send all of your spare fossils off to the research phase, and then go and do some more digs and stuff. The research progresses. We'll build some more skeletons here as well, and then you get some extra stuff for your research phase. We'll go throw a bit more in there. We'll finish building this skeleton. Build this skeleton. Then we'll get some more stuff. Build that skeleton. We get even more things for our museum. And so, yeah, like the idea that the research phase gobbles up all of your spare fossils and keeps you motivated to go and find more stuff is sort of an important gameplay role that I wanted the research phase to have. And yeah, it kind of does that. It's going to be an important tuning device when it comes to balancing things. But the research phase was something that I added in 2023. Peter did some really nice music for it. It's just this very, very laid back thing. I guess kind of like, I think of it as like the bone chopping channel music. And the idea is that, yeah, you are kind of spending your surplus fossils to unlock more content for the museum. And some of it is like a once-off thing that you unlock. And some stuff is something that you will need to like do a whole bunch of times. So I can spend a bunch of fossils here to unlock a new room for my museum, which I can't do because I don't have extra misc fossils to spend here. But that would only get me one room, and if I want to add another room, then I'll have to go and like research another room to add. So as you scale up the space that you want to, store stuff in, you'll need to come back and continue spending those spare fossils. And same for like skeleton mounts and display cases and stuff. These are temporary graphics, temporary UI, all the UI is temporary. But yeah, so if you want to have something that you can mount a skeleton on, put some skeleton bits on there, and start research, and off we go. We'll go and do a dig, and that progress bar will continue on its own. You can also review the completed research that you've done, but we haven't done any in this. Yeah. I like that new chunk selector as well, it's really cool. I want to have more of the UI doing that kind of stuff, where you get to, have the ability to see all the bits and pieces up close in ways that you wouldn't see them in the dig phase, and you probably wouldn't necessarily see them in the same way in the assembly phase either. Yeah, I like this kind of thing. This is fun. And we can also like show all the duplicates as separate items, so we can appreciate a better sense of like how big our inventory is. But hide duplicates I find is a little bit more useful for this kind of stuff. But yeah. And then going into the museum, I'm gonna jump into an existing profile to explore that. We'll go to I guess we'll go to Francis's museum. Actually, no, we'll start with Terence. So yeah, this shows the. Actually, Terence is not a good fit because Terence is showing things that are not present in in 2023 builds, but that's fine. So I added a new inspect mode where you get a free floating camera that you can move around and look at things from different angles. Previously, it was just like the camera was fixed, like at a fixed point, and all you could do was like rotate around that fixed point. Whereas now, you can kind of pan around, and which is not very relevant for this particular type of thing, which is very small. But if we go and look at a skeleton over here, for example, like this one, being able to like zoom in and pan around and look at the different parts of the skeleton is more interesting. And we also see a summary of like each of the fossil chunks that go together to make up the entire skeleton, and we also say like where and when each individual part was found. So I can click on these and zoom directly to them if I am inclined, which is fun as well. You know, being able to like just have the ability to sort of zoom straight in on something that you know, that we might be interested in. I think that helps surface more of the stuff that you did during the dig phase. You know, it's cool to be able to like show the little map again and stuff. But yeah, this is another example of where I'm trying to bring some of those bits and pieces to the forefront in the UI, whereas previously all this stuff was just buttons with text on it. But yeah, I like how the new inspect mode is working. It's pretty cool. Something else that I did in 2023 was like really work to decouple the editing mode from the, you know, avatar controls and stuff. Like I mentioned during last year's stream that the idea for the museum editing was meant to be that it was your avatar doing everything. So if you want to move something, you would walk over to it, pick it up, and then walk to where you want it, and then put it down. And I moved away from that eventually because I feel like it's a lot easier to just like grab a whole bunch of stuff like this and move that around together than it is to, you know, walk around five times to move objects like that. So that's a thing. I also added box selection, so thinking about that same kind of stuff, which allows us to do that, which is pretty cool. I added a thing where if you pick up an item, it'll give you like a top-down view, so you can have a better appreciation of positioning. Which, like, I don't hate, but it's kind of clunky. You know, you get the camera where you want it, and then you pick something up, and you're like, oh no, I want the camera over here, please. So I've actually moved away from that since. Another thing I did was move the lighting and music controls into like these little HUDs that are always present. Like it's not a thing that takes up the whole screen anymore. It's something that that you know, you can be in your 3D view, looking around at the stuff that you're affecting while you play with your sliders, and turn on and off your different spotlights and stuff. I still need to work on this lighting panel. Like I think I'm going to get rid of the preview now, and just have this as a little pop-up, rather than something that takes up the center of the screen as well. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I also made it. The music track selector is new in 2023. This waveform is temporary. It's not current, but we can actually click on it to jump around the music, which is really cool. Peter had done a version of the museum music here in towards the end of 2022, and I'd completely missed it in my rush to try and wrap up end of year stuff, where instead of being one music piece, it is a whole bunch of different tracks, and we can turn on different parts. So we can say, oh, we don't want these strings. There go the strings, and instead we're going to bring in a kalimba and maybe a harp. And I think we'll get rid of the flute and bring in like this low percussion. So we got these like big drums in the background. It's kind of fun. But the idea being that by having a whole bunch of different layers to the music, we're able to give players the opportunity to customize their spaces and kind of give each room its own tone and mood in a way that I think is fun, right? Like I think that's yeah, and I'll come to it in a second. I've got an example museum that comes with the game that sort of is meant to try and explore like what all that's meant to look like. But in addition to doing this, just to get some extra mileage, give people some extra options, we've also exposed all of the other music from the game. So if you want to have some dig music in there, you totally do that. You want to have the assembly music, it's fine. it'll tell you here whether or not it's got layers, like the music here does. And also if you've got custom music set up, then any of your custom music will show up in here as well. So that's what the refresh button is for. Yeah, in general, I'm pretty happy with how all that is looking. I remember at the end of 2022, I was, or across 2023, before I remembered that I had all these layers, I was feeling a little bit worried that you know, the one music track that we had for the museum might not be enough to cut it. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it works, and it's set up in a way that when you go to another room, like another museum room, it will. I don't know why this has a harsh edge here. Oh, because there's a door blocker there, and there shouldn't be. Alright, yeah, this room I did some like editing of the save file and broke some things, but that's fine. Gosh, what was I saying about the music? Yeah, really like what the museum music is doing here. I think it's going well. I was panicked that we didn't have enough to cover the breadth of what we needed. Like if a player is going to play for like 1,000 hours and they're going to build a museum with 30 to 40 rooms, you know, like just one music track isn't enough. But one music track that has, I think we've got 8 or 9 layers now. The number of combinations of 2 or 3 that you can get out of that starts to at least give you some coverage on that, which is cool. I don't think I've exposed it. Let's head back to the main menu. I can't remember what I've got in my dev stuff here. Oh, that shouldn't stay around. Museum placement test. Here we go. Yeah, I did some experiments with like working out how to position stuff. And this is back again when everything was sort of like from the avatar's perspective, or using that third-person camera. Like, how do we go about making it so that it feels right when you want to put stuff on the walls or on the ceiling? And then how does that work with gamepad controls if you want to jeez, I can't even yeah, it's messed up. It's very messed up. So I can move that left and right and up and down, and it's meant to jump onto the floor. It doesn't do a good job. It's meant to jump onto these walls, but it doesn't work properly. So it's like, had been experimenting with different ways to handle this stuff, and in the end I've decided to eschew a lot of this and go with a near isometric. It's not proper isometric, but it has the characteristics of an isometric camera in terms of, has the aesthetics of an isometric camera, but not the actual thing, because it has FOV. It's not has perspective. It's not orthographic. But yeah, that means that if we've got a relatively fixed camera position, I can just do a raycast from the center of the camera and see what we hit. Whereas here, there was this whole like the camera can stay still but things move around kind of business going on, and yeah, it was a little bit. This is still very clunky. It was cool to experiment with though. But yeah, I mentioned the example museum, so to test out the music layers and try and get a feel for where things are at and what our needs might be, I took a whole bunch of models from the prototype, as well as all of the models from this development version of the game, and made a museum which has got like a dozen rooms or so that, you know, I want to give players the opportunity to. I wanted to have something that was representative of what a museum might want or need to be. So if we go through here, we'll see that we've got like this is meant to be the aquatic exhibit with a whole bunch of stuff in here. And unfortunately, I had originally set up each museum room to have specific music to it, but changes that I made since to how the music stuff is saved and loaded has broken that, so it's just picking random combinations for each room. Yeah, so this one used to have just the flute and piano, I think, which felt like very small, or maybe it was just a flute and the harp. But yeah, it's meant to be. This is the small things exhibit, and when I had music that sounded like diminutive and cute and stuff. Whereas it's giving it like the big percussion, making everything feel grand. And we go into the herbivore room, which is like kind of green and has a whole bunch of herbivores in it and stuff. Yeah. So in addition to adding the skeleton mounts, which if we go into edit mode, I can I not edit these? I guess not. Yes, example museum. I turned off editing in the example museum. We'll go back to we'll go back here. This is the editable version of that. So yeah, if I go into edit mode, and now there's mounts, so I can't in edit mode normally I can't interact with the skeletons or specimens. But if I organize specimens for a mount, then I can pick up and rotate and move a thing to be where I want it to be. So this isn't a proper skeleton either. This is not a real skeleton. This is a fake one, which is why it says skeleton / Diamantinosaurus. Do I have any real skeletons here? I think this one might be. I think it's here. Yeah, this one's a normal one. There it is. So you can move it around and position it, put it down. We can also rename it as Jeffrey. I think replace mesh is like a debug thing I had, so that I could swap out, you know, these skeletons for the prototype skeletons and stuff. But yeah, the dividing the editing modes up makes everything feel a little bit more deliberate, I guess. So it means that you got to put the mount down, and then you put the skeleton down. And so you got to know what it is that you want to do. You want to know where it is that you want to put things. And you know, of course, you can move the mount around after the fact, but just in general, you know, you gotta have the equipment in order to place the things. And it also means that when it comes time to like edit stuff and move things around, you're not having to like make sure that you grab all of the individual skeletons. You just grab the mount that it's on. And for the example museum, I like sort of made fake big mounts out of 3 small ones, so it's fine. And then yeah, another thing I added was these display things, which are meant to be where the sort of educational aspect of the game is going to surface itself. Like, these are things that you'll be able to unlock in the research phase, and it'll give you some information about the you know, whatever topic you've decided to spend fossils on researching. And you know, this is just like very quick and dirty stuff, but I like the idea of having paragraphs of text and some images and stuff. Maybe there'll be some interactive ones. I really don't know how far I want to take that, but I really do like the idea of doing the kind of thing that I did in the Bpedia in Hive Time, where I'm trying to surface stuff from real-world research papers and providing a gateway for players to go and find out more information if they're like really excited about finding out, you know, the actual stuff that has inspired the game. This is pretty exciting. And then the last thing that I want to mention, but can't really just yet because we don't. Well, maybe we do. So towards the end of 2023, Peter and I started working on a song for the credits, and it's like a song with words kind of thing. So we had the Beatles song in Hive Time that people responded really well to, and we talked about whether or not it would make sense to do like a song for this game. and I wrote a bunch of lyrics and some chords and things, and then Peter took that and made it better and went off and found a vocalist to record with. That's the same vocalist who did the Beatles track from Hive Time, so that'll be fun too. Yeah, this morning he sent me a new version of that, which is called Dig Song Mixing Final Test 3.org, so that's like, we're getting close. But we've previously talked about holding off on releasing that song until the game is close to release or around the game's release, so that we can sort of give it a little bit more emphasis and a bit more fanfare, and treat it like a real song release, which is exciting. You know, it's fun. But I'm looking forward to, you know, the credits that I have at the moment in the game are just the same kind of thing I have in Hive Time and Bad Egg, where it's just scrolling text. Yeah, with this song in place, it sort of feels like it demands something more elaborate. So I'm looking forward to doing something that, you know, equals what the music is doing. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, that's about it for 2023 stuff. I've still got a lot of work ahead of me, but I feel like I'm getting close to having most of the stuff now down that I need to have nailed down before I move on to content. And the moment that I'm able to focus on content, I think the game itself will grow very, very fast. So I've had these 4 placeholder skeletons in there for like 2 years now, and there's not enough content to sustain the type of game that I want this to be. When I can push that up to 6 or 12, when I can put more continents on the world map, when I can, you know, add more of those museum displays and a few other bits of fixtures and furnishing and stuff, I think it's all gonna feel a lot more rounded than it currently does. Right now it feels very bare bones, pun intended, I suppose. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting close to that point where I can start switching over to content and working out what the final scale of the game is going to be. Yeah, I think I'm on the home stretch, and I'm looking forward to wrapping this project up this year, 2024. But yeah, that's about it for Hive Time stuff, for Fossil Sweeper stuff. I think that's probably going to be the bulk of the stream today. But we will still look at a couple of other games that I did patches for last year, 2023, the year that we're talking about. And one of those is Hive Time, which is turned 4 last year, I think. Yeah, turned 4. This came out in 2019. This is another game that Peter did the soundtrack for as well. Although no new music last year, which is fine. But yeah, we'll set up a new game. I think the chat integration stuff is enabled, so anybody who wants to participate in that is welcome. One thing I added was this loading screen, which should be animated. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. And the idea of that was to give players something visual that would communicate to them that the game had not crashed. Because yeah, when someone's loading like a really big hive and it takes a long time to do its stuff, it's pretty disconcerting for me when I see a player go, hang on, click, 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 tap, 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 is anything happening? Is the game broken? And then, you know, it finally loads and they go, oh, there we go. But showing just the words loading and have their little things bob up and down, letters, that's what we call them letters, bounce around while it's loading, I think just helps communicate that something's going on. But I think I can make me, there's a me. Yeah, and so like the changes that I made for Hive Time are pretty minimal. but you know, I'm pretty happy in general with the state of the game. So like most of the stuff that I do is more about like celebrating the game's birthday, celebrating World B Day, and doing something nice for players. Yeah, I think we're gonna use debug commands to bring up a few things. Hey Mini-Roach. So you don't need to use spawn me to spawn yourself. That's something I have to do as a developer because I don't always want to tip my hat when I go into someone's stream. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get rid of that and just make it so that I come up whenever I talk. But yeah, you can do !help and that'll show a list of available commands. And if you do that, I'll talk about which commands are new in 2023. Yeah, I added a new B-Fact as well. I painted some new event art. Yeah, so here we go. We have Roll is new. I think Info and Age are new. Buzz is new. Reverse is new. And Devs is new. So a lot of these are, like Devs is about being able to sort of surface information on who worked on the game. If somebody's like streaming and they're asking like, what is the, you know, who made this game or you know, whatever, that's a chance for me to kind of shout out everyone who contributed to it. Reverse is cosmetic and silly, just makes your bee fly backwards. As in most things in this game are cosmetic and silly, to be honest. I added a new B-Fact, which is B-Fact 46 is new. And that's about these little Lasioglossum cognatum, which is a native bee we have here in Australia that I've been visiting every now and again, and they sleep overnight in flowers. Well, the males do anyway. And it's very cute, so it was nice to surface something about that. What else is new? Yeah, so I added art for going as quickly as they came. So like, hang on, let's start with this one. So we've got the Ninja Fruit Flies event, which has got these silhouettes of fruit flies with their antennae looking like bandanas. And that was fine, and we have like a second Ninja Fruit Flies event, but previously that was using the same art because we hadn't had time to make a new one. But I wanted to do something separate, which is like same kind of thing, but this is them, you know, leaving with their spoils kind of stuff, which I think is fun. It's funny. Works well enough and feels distinct, I think. Yeah, it was nice to. I'm trying to think. Are there? I think there might still be 2 Wasp Attack events that use the same art, but other than that, every event has its own art, I think. So yeah, it was nice to quickly paint something in that was new for that. In terms of vignettes, I added some new ones, and oh, that's right. I don't have a nice. Oh, I do have a nice. Hang on. Cancel the debug stuff, please. Resume the game. There we go. Alright. I think I can trigger them. Can I do this? Can I do it this way? I can never remember what my commands are. In fact, I don't need to remember what my commands are because I've got like a little chat command builder thing here somewhere. There it is. So when I show a vignette, yeah, I can't trigger a specific one. I can only trigger like, yeah. Alright. It's been ages since I wrote that stuff, so it's easy for me to forget. But the one that I was looking for in here is called an elegant word picture, and is right there. There it is. So this is a new one. It says Vince has been working on a poem that uses cooking as a metaphor for the drive to become something more. It has taken a long time to capture the nuance of Vince's after. So cooking is a random substitution and drive to become something more is a random substitution. So it can pick all sorts of things. You know, it might be collecting stamps instead of cooking. It might be dancing with moths instead of cooking. And drive to become more can be like there's like an aspirations substitution list, and some of those are positive and some of those are negative. And yeah, it's nice to do that. So most of the vignettes that I added were about poetry. It's a throne room one, which is this one, allegorical for sure. Queen Alison has been reading some of Minnie Roach's poetry and is particularly impressed by an epic that tells the tale of a hideous turnstile that touches the lives of everyone in Pollen Hills. So again, hideous turnstile is one of the object substitutions, and Pollen Hills is one of the Fantasyland substitutions. There was a second throne room one that I added, which was Interesting Rhythmic Devices, which is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. Queen Alison has been trying her hand at poetry. She has written several scary poems and recently showed one to Jenny, who said they thought that some of the metaphysical imagery was particularly effective. So that's this last bit and the title here are quotes from Ford and Arthur responding to prosthetic Vogon Yeltz's poetry in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it's a nice thing to add a little reference in there. I'm pretty happy to have done that. What other vignettes were new? There's a new nursery vignette. Which one is that? It is Big Dreams. For some time, Bert has been collecting poems written by young grubs that are sent to be displayed in the throne room once a month. Bert's current favourite is a crazy one about baby Benjamin wanting to take up drag racing when they grow up. Okay. Drag racing is one of the other aspirations. Oh look, there's me going backwards again. Good times. What else is new? There's a barracks vignette, which is practice makes perfect. There it is. Between patrols, Kahaya has been listening to Conrad recite grumpy poetry. Their delivery is getting quite good. And so grumpy is one of the moods, which might be happy, silly, joyous, grumpy, whatever. What else we got? There was also a wax assembler one, which was suggested by Josh, the NES nerd, who is a that's I'm blind. There it is. Someone who's streamed the game a fair bit and has been very positive about the game since its release, which I'm very happy and thankful for. The other bees make fun of Minnie Roach for sometimes calling the wax assembler a wax refinery, but Unger agrees that it's a little bit confusing. So the honey refinery and the jelly refinery are called refineries, and the wax assembler is not called a refinery. And that's tripped players up a little bit. It's not that the wax assembler is different, it's that I couldn't come up with a better name for the jelly refinery. Like, I wanted the honey refinery, sounds right. I wanted like the jelly building to have like a third name, but I couldn't come up with one, so it's a refinery as well. Maybe it should be like a distillery or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll change that in a future release. But it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, that's all of the vignettes. I think I have Togglepedia debug. I can show off that bee fact. Yeah, here it is. Oh. Some bee species, such as Lasioglossum cognatum, are known to sleep in flowers overnight. So yeah, just a little picture of a bee sleeping in a dew-covered flower there. It's quite nice. And the debug mode also shows like all the other photos that are currently unused by bfacts. These are photos that I've taken and included in the game's data files. I feel like maybe I should consider replacing the where is it? I've got a I got a fact that's about the scopa or corbicula, and maybe that one with the full pollen basket. Ah, no, this is way better. This one actually shows the hairs. But yeah, so it's like, it's not really part of the game, but I do like scrolling through these and going, oh yeah, look, here's another couple of these little bees sleeping in the flowers. And another one, and another one. Guess I was excited by those. I should probably add a fact that's like specifically about how, as far as we can tell, like most bees don't intentionally do the pollination stuff. It's like they just inadvertently rub against flower parts while drinking from flowers. I think they also eat some of the pollen as well. But yeah, it's like flowers taking advantage of their presence rather than them being farmers. I don't think I have a BPD fact about that. And then the other thing that's been added in here is the music player, which is this little doodad here, which we can expand out, and that lets us, control the currently playing track. We can also expand it out to see like the name of the track and stuff. We can skip to the next one. Change the volumes and things if we wanted. And yeah, I wanted to do something that was like suggesting Winamp in a kind of fun way. This is something that we talked about having in the game for a long time, but it never quite worked out as something that I could get in there. I didn't have a mechanism for displaying like the track names and stuff. So, and it needed to work with custom music, so I couldn't just like have a hard-coded list of track names somewhere. But yeah, I found a mechanism for doing this, which I've written about in the release notes for this patch if you want to learn more. Hey Mr. Nuclear Monster, nice to see you. You have a very nice top hat there. Let's follow you around. Yeah, have a good one. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Hive Time. As I said, I didn't... Well, actually, hang on. There's a new... When you use the conga command, the first person says conga, and then I think everyone who subsequently joins the conga line says either conga, yay... I don't know, it's like 4 or 5 things that they can say. Let me go forwards. Backwards conga is silly. There we go. That's better. Yeah, so it's like previously only the first person in the line would say something. But now everybody who joins says something. It's also like a random chance if you've got a past queen bumbling around the throne room, she'll join the conga line as well, which is kind of fun. Yeah. Oh, and the other command that I added is buzz, which plays one of 11 little kazoo renditions of Tulof Bees songs, and that one was Dinosaurs, you were going in the oven and you will get hot and will eat you, which was a song that we used to sing when we were eating chicken tempura dinosaurs. Yeah, so it's a whole bunch of them. And lots of them are about eating dinosaurs. That one was sometimes we eat dinosaurs, but they're really made from pasta. Sometimes we eat dinosaurs, but they're really made from chicken. Dinosaurs, you are going in the oven and you will get hot and will eat you. What else we got? Oh my goodness. Please, give us something other than the dinosaur ones. But if you don't eat it, it can be your friend. Everything is crafting. Crafting everything metal for my stuff. Which was a song that we used to sing when playing Team Fortress 2 and crafting everything. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. Magpie friend, come visit me. Magpie friend, come for tea. Magpie friend, come home with me. We can play Monopoly. That's the Magpie song. Yeah, it's nice to sort of do something with all of these. I wanted to give some closure, some attention to that stuff, and yeah, it was good to tick that box, you know. But yeah, the reason that I added the buzz command to begin with was that there were people who would always show up and type buzz whenever they were a bee. I'm like, yeah, no, there's no buzz command, and eventually I was like, well, if I add one, then less people will appreciate it. So yeah, there are people who drop by when I'm streaming this and do a buzz, and that's great. But yeah, that's about it for Hive Time. Just a couple small patches. Well, B Day is in May the 20th, and the game's birthday is on December the 12th, or December the 12th. And I think I'll probably keep up the tradition of doing a little patch. I was hoping to get to some optimization stuff for Hive Time this year, but I ran out of time, so maybe that'll be on the cards for 2024 if that happens. But yeah, that's about it for Hive Time. Alas, there's not a lot to really show, but you know, it's the same game. It's always been. Nothing has been like significantly removed or changed or altered in any meaningful way. Yeah. So the next game that I was going to talk about was Bad Egg, and much like Hive Time, Bad Egg has only received small updates. I think the music is quiet. So this is another, actually maybe that's too loud. This is another game that Peter did the soundtrack for, and this is one where we collaborated more directly. I wrote the initial melody for this this main theme, and then Peter expanded it and made it better. Recurring theme there. And I think there was one or two other pieces of music that I'd written before he came on board, or done little sketches of before he came on board, and he was happy to use those. That's kind of nice. So yeah, in terms of stuff that was added in this patch, I've updated the player stats screen to show a paginated list of unlocked skins. So you can flick back and forth. That means if I ever want to add more than the 18 that came with the game, is that 9? 3, 6, 9? Yeah. So there's 18 that initially shipped with the game, and in that last patch I added one more, and decided that it would be a good opportunity to add some pagination. So that's nice. The other thing that I did was I updated the new game screen here so that the Bad Egg there will like watch the mouse move around as you play with the you know, look at the buttons, and if you're using the actually I thought I'd like, did I add keyboard bindings for this? Maybe not, but if you're using the gamepad you can sort of make it look around with the right stick. But yeah, the new skin is this potato guy here. Who doesn't like a good potato? I like a good potato. And yeah, that's it. There's like nothing has changed in the game itself. I made some changes to how the resolution and scaling of a few things work, so that if you're playing on a different resolution from what everything has been set up as by default, that everything will be a little bit more consistent. But all of those were very minor cosmetic things. But yeah, so Bad Egg is a game where you play as Bad Egg, who is hopping from nest to nest to get to the end of their journey. And this is the tutorial here. In the year before, I added this like silhouette to the tutorial to help illustrate what it is that you meant to do. So in particular, people have trouble with this maneuver, and so I wanted to have a little silhouette of the Bad Egg doing it to make it a bit easier to understand what needs to happen. But you can carry stuff around. When you're carrying stuff, you can't hang from branches, but you can stop in nests. And then you also pick up these tokens here. Yep. And you can also, you have stamina down at the bottom left, and you can glide as well. So it's like, it's quite different to, well, I think it's quite different to something like Flappy Bird, which I think superficially it represents. Like in Flappy Bird, you don't have any control over your lateral movement, like you've got no agency there. The stamina thing makes it all kind of different, a little bit more tactical, much more technical. And yeah, being able to like stop in nests and rest on branches and stuff. We'll play a little bit. Once upon a time, a bad egg slept in its nest, the last of its kind. It dreamed of a family. The bad egg knew it was alone in this land, but a trail of nests led off toward the hills. Surely there must be bad eggs there. And so yeah, the idea is that you're on a journey to go and find your family. Whee! But it starts off easy and gets a little more difficult as time goes on. And by collecting these tokens, like every time you gain enough tokens to spell bad egg, you will gain another egg in the top corner, which represents your like motivation to continue your journey. And thematically, the game is about burnout, I guess, and overcommitment and stuff. And if you pick up an egg, you can carry it to a nest and it'll hatch. And then that little hatchling is going to follow you around to the end of the zone. And we set it up so that each music track has like a little like clapping track that goes along with it. Whoops, hang on. I want to do this safely, little bad egg, please. We're gonna go over the top. Over the top safer. There we go. And the clapping track plays whenever you've got a little hatchling following you. I wanted to do something that had the same kind of feel as like in I think it's Super Mario World. There's like an extra layer to the music that comes in when you're riding Yoshi. I don't know what his name is. Yeah, I wanted to do something that had those same kind of characteristics. Where? We get the token. Thank you. So every fourth level is vertical, which asks you to like use your skills in a slightly different context from what you had previously been using them, because you're fighting against gravity in a different way. And once you get a hatchling to the end of the zone, they're considered befriended, and then you unlock that as a playable skin. Along the way, the bad egg met a small hatchling. "I'm looking for bad eggs. They're round, like me. Have you seen any?" asked the bad egg eagerly, but the hatchling hadn't. They travelled together until they reached the hills. The hatchling asked if the bad egg had to go, but the bad egg needed to find its family. Instead of going all the way up, the trail of nests led into the mouth of a cave. Maybe there are bad eggs in here. And then yeah, each zone is its own like environment, its own tone and character, which you know, I hoped to convey some kind of sense of a paced story and emotional arc across the game. You know, again, I'm not the one who can speak to whether or not any of that stuff works, but in general, I'm pretty happy with how it all came out. But yeah, it's got like a story with an ending and stuff. But it also, the game has an endless mode, has two endless modes. There's a survival mode and a zen mode. And the survival mode is like there is no end. Oh jeez, all right, this is fun. Yeah, in the survival mode, it just like it's completely endless, and you will go until you die, kind of thing. And in Zen mode, it just like stays at the same difficulty instead of increasing over time. Although I say that, there's an option of like when you get to the nest at the end of a level, you have the option to like end the run there instead of like dying isn't the only way to end a run. You can manually opt out, which feels a lot nicer than games that, you know, if you're playing well and, you know, it's dinner time or something comes up and you wanna have the closure of finishing your thing without having to have the negative of, you know, if you've got 20 lives, you don't want to have to die 20 times to finish your game. That's stupid, right? Hey Slacks, how you doing? Mini Roach, you asked earlier whether or not I use the same same engine for all my games, and these first three that we're talking about today are all made in Godot. But I also have other tools I work with and other tools I make. And in the next game, we'll be taking a look at that a little bit. I had decided to not talk about it much during the stream, but in 2023, I also started work on some new development tools, although those ones are made with Godot, but I made some authoring tools for a project that I didn't have time to like make anything substantial of, so since there's nothing playable there, it didn't make sense to talk about this. But yeah, making tools is something I do every now and again as well. Along the way, the bad eggs met a small hatchling. I'm looking for bad eggs. They got pointy fangs, like me. Have you seen any? Asked the bad egg, hopefully. But the hatchling hadn't. They travelled together until they saw a light ahead. The hatchling asked if the bad egg had to go, but the bad egg needed to find its family. Beyond the cave, the trail of nests led into a flowery meadow. Bad eggs love flowers. There have to be bad eggs here. And yeah, so like each zone's got its own stuff going on. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. But that's about all I want to show of Bad Egg for now. And that leads us to the last game, which is called Flat, which is a first-person ice skating combat game. And I normally like to try and avoid this, but I am gonna have to step away for just one moment. So please bear with me as I briefly. That's the wrong flat. Let's try this flat. There we go. While I briefly disappear to blow my nose. I'll be back in just 1 second. Right, sorry about that. Okay, so Flat is a first-person ice skating combat game with experimental movement controls. It is made in Allegro, which is a open source game development framework similar to SFML or SDL. I first made this in 2012 for the very first 7-day FPS game jam, along with 2 other people. And we decided to open source the game, release it under a free software license. Over the past few years I've been doing a couple of small maintenance patches to it and a few bits and pieces. The changes this year are relatively small, nothing that sort of really has an impact on gameplay compared to the year before, when I added like all these game modes and difficulty settings and stuff. I'd done some work on improving the menu, the like settings menu layout stuff, which was not behaving correctly when going full screen. Although I'd have to scale that down. No, we can scale that down. No, it's fine. But anyway, there's like all the settings were keeping their position instead of moving around to be scaled properly, so I fixed all that. I updated it so that the settings files and stuff are now saved in the user's home folder rather than right next to the game executable. And I added a little shortcut that will open up a file browser to where those files are, which is great. But the big thing that I added in this last patch is support for custom bindings for keyboard, mouse, and gamepad. It was cool to make some UI that allows all this stuff to work. And now that gamepad, I did like a massive refactor of how input is handled. So now instead of everything being in like game.cpp, there's now an input manager.cpp, and all of that stuff is abstracted away from the gameplay code. So the game just says, you know, have we received an input, and the input manager can say yes or no, and the game doesn't need to know anything about mice or keyboards or buttons or anything. So all the binding stuff is properly abstracted. I had to special case a little bit more of the mouse stuff than I wanted, but you can use an axis, like the x-axis of the mouse is bound here. If we go here, these are axis bindings as well. So there's joysticks are sort of like absolute axes, where you have a value between 0 and 1, and there's the absolute position of the joystick. But the mouse axis is sort of relative, and when you move the mouse, you move it by 10 pixels or whatever, and it, like, you need to know where the mouse already, like, you only need to apply that 10 pixels. You don't have to like apply the 50% joystick over time. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm explaining that terribly, but yeah, I had to add like a new GUI widget for the buttons here. I added this scroll bar widget and also like a container idea. I'd like to do next patch, I'd like to do a bit of a refactor of how some of the GUI stuff works, so I can have a screen manager and make each screen be a container of something that the scroll container here inherits from. So some of that I'll get to eventually, but all of that work allowed me to enable joystick support by default, which is great. And yeah, that's about it. So I didn't have any like significant gameplay changes to share, but I will play a little bit. Why not? Let's go. So instead of pressing WASD to move around the way that you would move around in a traditional first-person game, you press D to lean right and A to lean left, and you do this repeatedly to pick up speed. So you can hold down W to sort of lean forward and accelerate while you're skating like that. But you can also hold down S and skate backwards. And the weapons have a little bit of kickback to them as well. music kind of tells you when something's up. Ah, where are they? I'm blind. Where are you guys? Alright, we're good. We can heal. Get some health kits available. We need to find another crate, get some more. Some more guys have come. I'm just gonna ignore them for now. That's what I wanted. Reload. There we go, alright. Combat's pretty easy when you skate backwards like this. Look at you. Alright. More guys. There's too many vans. Man's shooting at me. I just realized that the game is a little bit loud, so I might turn it down a little. Where are you guys? Okay, that's everyone dealt with. Good. Yeah, I guess I have my headphones turned down a little. I realized quite how loud it was. Apologies. I think that happened last year as well. Just gonna ignore most of these guys, I think. Ow! No! Ah, dang it! Leave me alone. I just want some more med kits. I'm here for the med kits. That's all. Can't quite go as fast as the, there we go, that's what we're waiting for. Okay, so big bad guys here. There he is. Ow. Ow. and that's it. Hooray! Success! Yeah. Terrible accuracy. Yeah, so it's like the game itself at its core is still more or less the same game that we made back in 2012. But since 2020, I've added like all this menuing stuff is new, this statistics screen is new, yeah, all the menu stuff is new. It used to be that you just got this when you started the game, and then you click, and then it just starts playing. And when when you got the thanks for playing screen, it just quit. But yeah, now we got like proper credits and stuff, and like all the settings screen and stuff. So that's been really cool. The other thing that I've been very happy to add to the game has been this game mode thing, where we can say I can, you know, give players access to actually, you know, I think in 2023 I think I also made it so that the free skate mode here doesn't show gameplay hints, because like that's not useful. It's not useful for anything. So free skate's like an example of something that is different to the base game in that there's no combat, it's just skating, it's just the environment. No enemies spawn, no crates spawn, and all of that is controlled via a set of rules definitions that control how frequently enemies spawn and all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I like the idea of being able to extend the game into, you know, potentially new areas. There are a few things, like bigger scale things that I would like to do that would fundamentally change the nature of what the game is. But I had never felt comfortable doing it because I wanted to preserve the original game that we made in 2012, right? And through the game modes thing, I can do that now, right? That's interesting. I think I might update the statistics screen to also include like how far you have traveled, because I think that's potentially interesting. And particular, like, it means that this screen means something for free skate mode, right? But yeah, doing this means that I can do stuff. And it was interesting as well when I added this in after the jam. We had like tuned the game to be a lot easier in response to some feedback, but we're always on the fence about whether or not that was a positive thing, because the game as we intended it to be was meant to be a challenging experience that would take you, you know, 4 or 5 attempts before you would be able to get through to the end. But people who play game jam games, like, they want to spend 10 minutes playing a jam submission and then move on to the next one. You know, they don't have time to invest in an experience that requires multiple attempts and a bit of learning to play. So yeah, we've always felt like we were compromising something when we made it easier. But even still, the changes that we did make, it was still a little bit too hard for some people. So when I added this game modes thing, I updated it so that easy was like even easier than we had been tuning things to be. Very forgiving, aimed at like, you should probably be able to get through this on one playthrough without much effort. Normal I made harder to reflect something closer to what the game originally was with our initial jam submission, and then I made something that's like challenging, and that's a thing where, you know, when I'm playing, I don't know whether or not I'm going to survive, and that's kind of fun and exciting for me. But yeah, I'm also potentially keen to explore things in new directions later. But that's about it. That's about everything that I want to cover today. That's more or less all the work on my own games, that I did in 2023, aside from the tools for the game that I didn't end up making, that I mentioned earlier. I guess there's also some like game mods that I worked on. My Crypt of the Necrodancer Danceformers mod that adds Transformer skins for characters. I updated in 2023, but I don't feel like that's substantial enough to touch on here. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But otherwise, I'll wrap up here. I also post a longer post that goes into more detail on not only these games, but also other projects that I worked on, the mods that I mentioned earlier, the contract work that I mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to talk about here, Blends Day, other sorts of bits and pieces. You can find all of that on my Patreon site page thing, and the archive of this will go up onto YouTube as well, and the link will be in the description to that post for anybody who would like to check it out. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for hanging out. It's been fun, and I'll be back to stream other things at other times. It's been very nice to show off some of the work that I did last year, and I will speak to people another time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.